community-based civil society organizations. And it's both that are needed. The partners at the place-based, at the municipal and territorial level who work in partnership, those organizations are often part of other networks. So some of the organizations that have been here, like Greenpeace and Friends of the Earth, are part of large global networks of civil society actors, and we do need their active support in different ways. So it's great to know that. Yeah. And I believe we have Guido. You have
I just wanted to complement what you were saying. I think the point you raise is very crucial. I don't think we can work in isolation. We have to build on partnerships, no? And partnership at all levels, no? UN level, NGO level, community, civil society, and we seek for this kind of collaboration. So we're definitely open. The modality depends, of course, depends on the local context, depends on who is already working where. But of course, we need to make an effort to make this coordination and avoid overlaps and duplication, which often happens. FAO, the Milan Pact, and local government networks are already starting to coordinate the effort and to create these synergies, which are indispensable. No, we cannot succeed if we don't work a partnership. So any possibility to connect at global level, also in specific countries, is very welcome.
So I think I don't see other questions. Do you have any final remarks?
Yes, yeah. No, just to mention that the Secretariat has been approached by also big international organizations and institutions. Lately we have been approached by the EU Austrian presidency and the World Bank, and what we do is to advocate for resources both for cities, administrations, but also for the civil society organization. So we also do this work for you as well.
Good, good. Thank you so much. And for everyone here, if you have other questions and you have things you want to speak with the Secretariat or with other actors, FAO, we now will move to closing remarks. And I invite Marcela and Andrea to join up here on the stage, and we'll close this morning's session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. And actually, I'd like to thank very especially the city of Tel Aviv for this opportunity of having this session and sharing, which I thought was very, very useful. I think we heard very clearly this morning that we have to move very decisively towards a food systems approach. And that means that we already have enough experience around the world in different cities that are experimenting it locally. But that means that we should be better integrating what happens in the rural areas with what is happening in the urban areas. We should be better integrating all the different actors. So it's government and non-state actors that should be taking part in this discussion. Every one of the non-state actors should be given voice. This goes back to the question from Greenpeace. We strongly believe from FAO that it is up to societies to eliminate hunger and all forms of malnutrition. The governments will never do it alone. Without the active participation and the voice of everybody, it's simply not going to happen. So there's a very big and important role for civil society organizations, but for all of the other non-state actors, for the farmers' associations, for the women's associations, and so on and so on. I think very interestingly and importantly, we heard about how food policy is evolving, and we need to be aware of that. Look at the evolution of food policy, and as Toronto suggested, have a process map, see how different needs of cities are evolving, how we can take into account the different needs as they come up, and incorporate them into the work as we're advancing. From a monitoring framework, very interestingly, we heard about different cities who not only are advancing very strongly in using the indicators, but also are willing to share with other cities their experience. And I think the lesson learned from ADA is very important in terms of don't try to use all of the 44 indicators, just see which one of those are relevant, are the most relevant for you, for your own specific situation within your own city, and also for which of them, of these indicators, we have enough data. Otherwise, it's a moot question. So that's a big, important lesson learned. We heard also about how the legal framework is also very important. We have a concrete experience from Antananarivo. We also saw how the city incentives are important from Shanghai, how by looking at using used oil as biodiesel, but also adding a system, an appropriate system of incentive, is that you get the results. So the biodiesel has to become less expensive than other forms of diesel, and therefore the whole system can work. So there's also this role of identifying an appropriate system of incentives for the work to happen. Kelimani, how we're integrating what we do with farmers, what is being done in schools and integrating health and nutrition. And again, this is another topic that comes out again and again, how the food system can be an entry point to address other systems, of course, very importantly, the health system, but across the board, very importantly also the climate change. In the way forward, we heard that there's a very important interest from most of the cities who answered the questionnaire. 30 cities said that they are very interested in the city-to-city cooperation. So this, of course, gives us a very good guiding principle where to go next. It is about sharing. It is about sharing lessons learned. It's about sharing messages and ways of doing and know-how between cities. And this is where we are going to strengthen our work in FAO South, South-South cooperation, city to city, but also North-South and North-North obviously comes also into the equation. But very importantly, there is a big appetite for sharing knowledge and city to city cooperation. I thought that was very good guidance for the future. There are also some other issues that are arising, membership fees, yes or no. For me, the important part here is to address inclusiveness. Why not also maybe think about a scheme that where richer cities can support in a kind of sisterhood or brotherhood, as you want to call it, cities that have less resources so that everybody can participate equally and freely, or other forms, of course. Then finally, I think we also have to think a little bit about how we integrate national policy with city policy. And here, of course, FAO is there to help. As an intergovernmental organization, we work directly with the different governments, and we can influence the government policies, the national policies, and we can also influence that articulation, better articulation between the city policies, food policies, and the national food policies. And I think there's a lot from what I've heard today to be able to share with the national level of the governments. And they would be happy to engage more into what is happening also at the city level through this knowledge. So I'd like to just finalize by saying FAO is fully committed to continue the work with all of you. And very specifically in the city to city, as most of the cities are requesting that. So thank you very much for the contributions of each and every one of you for this very rich and inspiring session. Thank you.
So really thank you to Marcela Villarreal, because the final remarks were absolutely not formal, and helped us to connect the dots, because really we are really creating a new space which was not existing before. I have some friends here in this room who are in some way friends, not only colleagues, because we shared some actions also more than 10 years ago, and I saw the evolution of this attention about the role of cities in creating a more sustainable food system, with a lot of different approaches. It was not in this way, the situation, and I think that the Milan Pact created the difference. In the last 3 years, a lot of things happened, creating a new space with the existing experience, with the long tradition, like Toronto, for example, and with other existing networks, but also the Milan Pact generated and is generating new spaces, local networks, national networks, regional networks, and so on. So I think that it is something new. Also, the question about the role of civil society can be scaled at different levels, because there is something that is interesting in the creation of this new space. Also in the submission, if you read the description of the activities done by the cities, it's not always easy to understand what is the role of the municipality and what is the role of some civil society organization. Because there are a lot of practices that have been incubated for a lot of time by informal groups all together.